Welcome to the Airflow Podcast. I'm your host, Rickey Thomas, and this is the place where Kingdom heirs go to be informed and inspired. So sit back, relax, and flow with me. What's going on, Airflow family? Welcome back to another episode of the Airflow Podcast. I'm your host, Rickey Thomas, and today I want to take some time and talk about something that I kind of came across it in one of the podcasts that I listened to, and I love it. It's kind of a self-help, self-motivation podcast, and they were talking about things or traps to avoid in life, and I said, you know what, this would be good to share with my Airflow family, because so many times a lot of us get caught up in some of these traps that are out there. And as we go through some of them, you'll see where I'm coming from, and you'll understand, like, man, because it made me think, like, how many traps have I fallen into just easily? It wasn't like it took a lot, but when I go through these, I'm not going to go through everything, but I wanted to break them down a little more and just really talk through them. And some of these things I've actually shared before, so I'm not going to go in depth with those. But here are things of just really how do I avoid or what to avoid, and just really identifying what those traps are that we all get caught in, and we all get caught up in them. So one of the things that they talked about in terms of a trap is, and I had a whole episode, Victimized Minds. You can go check that out on any of your podcast players, or go to my website, airflowpodcast.com. Look up and listen to Victimized Minds. But this one is called the victimhood trap. And again, when we talk about victims, you talk about the trap of being a victim. When you position yourself in life where you take a victim and you have a victim mentality, it's a shift in your mindset. And so in that sense, everything is basically happening to you. You yield any control you have over your life to outside or external forces that will basically force you to make choices on things happening to you, or it's that mindset. And that is a big trap, because you have control over your life. If you choose to give that control, there are things and there are times where people can be victims. And I've said that before. There's always going to be something that happens where you might be the victim of something. But your life cannot be based around something happening to you. Your attitude about going and growing and doing things can't be, well, this is going to happen, and if every time I try to do this, this happens, so I'm not going to do this. And it's just always, it's somebody else doing something to me that's causing me not to be successful. And that's a trap. So we got to stop that. And I say we because it can be easy sometimes to fall into that trap. And I fight against that so much, because I refuse to allow somebody to have that kind of power over me. And for me to feel like a victim, and when you always have that victim mentality, that is what it's going to be. So definitely avoid that trap. One of the other things that I think we all fall victim into this, and it's called they called it the plenty of time trap. And what was meant there is that we all assume that we can get to something, we got time to do it, we got time to knock it out. And what we always find is that's not the case. Or we meant to do this, but we lost track because there's always something else that comes up. And it's not just about, I need to go get this job or work towards this. It's relationships. I can hear, and I've heard people so many times say, man, I was just going to call that person when they get that Facebook post that somebody died or somebody got hurt, or somebody's in the hospital or something. It's always when something's like, I meant to call them. Like, I meant to reach out to them. It was in my heart to reach out and talk to that person, or send them a text just to see how they was doing. Like, there's always those scenarios that happen. And I'm just using that as an example, but there's the thought, it's the thought process that there's always time. There's always time to go back to school. There's always time for me to take that vacation that my family has been wanting for so long, or desiring, or, my wife, or things like that. There's always the thought of time, but we know time continues to move. We start to get older, things start to happen differently, and I'm not saying that, again, this isn't a doom or gloom, but you have to understand that we have to take control of time. And you guys know, you listen to me, I'm a spiritual person. I believe that God is a redeemer of time, but we've got to take control of our lives to be able to ensure that, and this is kind of going back to that victimhood mentality, a victim mentality, but we have to make time if that's important. I've seen people work so hard for so long, and, I think everybody has heard the story, but, there was a gentleman who worked at Burger King for like 20 something years, and he retired, never missed a day of work at all. And he decided to go ahead and retire. And they gave him basically a gift bag with some candy or something in it after 20 years of service. Now, on one hand, you would say, what do you expect? It's a fast food restaurant. But, on the other hand, it just goes to show you, how much time did you miss away from family and other situations to be loyal to a company that wasn't necessarily loyal to you? Now, yes, you worked, you got a check, and, you did your job, and they did their job in paying you. But my point is, don't delay. Don't assume that you always have time. Like when I retire, I'll take trips and I'll travel. Well, who knows what the quality of your life would be at that point? Who knows what the quality of your relationships would be like? Yeah, I'm just going to work a few more years and build up, and then I'm going to retire, or I'm going to wait, and then we're going to go take this trip. And we keep delaying. And there's a season for everything. This isn't one of those things where I'm telling people to go up, quit their jobs, or go take a $20,000 vacation with their family just to bypass everything that they're building towards. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. But you've got to stop thinking there's plenty of time. Find ways. And again, go back to some of the other podcasts. The last one I did yesterday about got to get away. I mean, those things need to take place. No matter how small it is, you don't have the time. You've got to figure out how you can make time to do these things. Time is not something that you can control. You can control the now. You can plan for your future, but again, you have to make sure that you are taking care of what you need to take care of, and protecting what needs to be protected, because it's going to get to a place. And I say this all the time. It's going to get to a place where you're going to look back and say, man, where did all the time go? And then you want to try to take these long trips, and you're like, man, I'm out of breath. Kids are older. They get to the place where they doing their own thing, and you like, I wanted to do this, or I wanted to do that with them. And, they were taken care of, but you'll find most of them will tell you, like, I just wanted you. I just wanted to spend some time with you. We didn't have to go on the big extravagant trip, but I just wanted to do something. But, I thank you for taking care. You took care of me. You took care of business. We didn't have a want or need when it came to that, but we also didn't have you. And there has to be a balance. So I'm not going to harp on that much longer, but it's a big thing. One of the other ones that they talked about was the not enough trap, or scarcity. And, it's again, when we start talking about recession, or you hear news of something's going to run out, people start having this mindset of, it's not going to be enough for everybody. There's a value that's fixed to something, opportunities that are fixed. So if you get this job, if this person gets a job, then that's one less job for you out there. And we know there are plenty of jobs out there. There's plenty of opportunities. But again, if we have that mindset that, what you get is if somebody else gets it, then it's not, then that's something less for you to get. that again, that's a scarcity mindset. There's plenty out there. And you have to make sure that you're not around people who have a limiting mindset. They're always talking about there's not going to be enough. There's always going to be a shortage of this. There's always going to be a shortage of that. Or, they don't like when somebody else gets this opportunity because that's believed to be the only opportunity for that thing. Somebody in your job gets a promotion. That means you'll never get a promotion. So why try? Those types of things. And when you got people like that around you, you'll start taking on that mentality. Unless you're actively fighting against it, but you will start taking on that mentality. And I can tell you, I've had to back away from certain folks because of that kind of mentality. Because I don't want to take that into my spirit or get that in my space to where I'm absorbing that. And you got to be real with yourself and understand that, everybody may not have that abundance mindset, but there's plenty. If you guys look at pay attention to the financial stuff, financial happenings of our country, you'll see that they're constantly, we talk about a recession and talk about money, but what happens? They constantly print money. They're printing trillions of dollars to keep things going. Talk a recession, and then everybody gets in fear, and then what happens? Things pull back. Stock market. Look at the stock market. Everybody hears recession. Oh, mortgage rates are going to go up. But it happens all the time. It happens in cycles. And so if you live off of the fear, then you'll never get to that next place of abundance when now the market, I'm just going to use stock market, for example. This is the time that you should have been, prior to this, you should have been positioned to buy certain stocks. Not all of them, but there are certain ones that are going to be around for a long time. And we'll talk about that in another episode. This isn't the time to sit back, and I'm not saying everybody go spend a bunch of money on stocks, because there's actually some other things that you can do to protect your money. 401ks are going down. But see, people were okay when they were in a place of plenty. 401ks were shooting up, crazy because the stock market was reaching all-time highs for the indexes and a lot of the big time companies. And so there was everybody was just getting fat. Now it's trimmed back. Same with crypto. But if your mindset is always about limiting, then you're going to be one of the ones who in 5 years from now, you're going to sit back and say, I wish I would have took advantage of the market. And then even further, you'll be like, I wish I would have positioned myself, because when times were good, I should have been taking a little bit and putting it to the side just because I knew it was going to come a time where the financial industry is we're going to lose some stuff in stock. You're going to lose some stuff in now crypto. They're calling it the crypto winter. Some cryptocurrencies may not last, but there are some that are going to always be there. And that's a reason for that. So again, don't get caught into that scarcity mindset. One of the other ones and this one's always interesting, but they call it the education trap. And when I think about education, an educational trap, I think more about thinking that the only way to be successful, and they kind of mentioned this too, but it really was more of the only way to be successful in life is to get an education. Now, they said some things about, education is just a piece of paper, getting it. I don't necessarily agree with that. Yes, it is a piece of paper, but I look at getting an education. If that is something that you desire to do, it is worth it, because getting the education, going through the process is an accomplishment for an individual. And I always encourage people, if you want to do that, go out there and do it. But that's not the only way. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be successful in life. But it can help you be successful in life. It can give you, college can give you skills and help you develop, techniques that can help you in your business or in your in your corporate career. So it's not a bad thing. And I don't want to make education sound like a bad thing, but the trap is that you have to go to college and get a degree. And we see now that there are so many options out there. There are so many options for online courses, certifications, to teach you certain things. There's, technical schools that just focus on, certain things that are around electronics and stuff like that. I mean, we know that there's auto diesel colleges out there, that will teach you stuff. There's so many different places where a traditional 4-year in university does not have to be the only way that you can be successful. College is more than just, it's an education, but it's an experience. But for some people, they don't need that experience. Some people, it depends on what you want out of life and what you want with life. It was a college for me was a period where I got a chance to mature, learn more about myself, and I enjoyed, and I'm glad I went. But that doesn't mean everybody's going to have that same experience. And if your goal is just to go to college so you because you think that's the only way you're going to get a job and be successful, then that's not true. And that's the trap that they want you, that they're saying, and that I'm saying you need to avoid that. Because some people may not necessarily need to go to college. It may be a trade school. You may want to go to a construction school. You may want to take some certifications on how to build websites or how to manage social media platforms in terms of social media marketing and things like that. There are classes, there are courses out there that will teach you that stuff. How to buy and sell stock and trade stock, how to do the same thing with crypto, how to do different skill sets, and really looking at what your passion is, and then figuring out how you can leverage that in the marketplace. Colleges may not necessarily have that, but if there's something that you desire to do, then do that. And this is not to say that that becomes a trap, but if you desire to do it and that's something that you feel like, you want to accomplish, then you do it because that is what you want to do. Don't fall into the trap of thinking I've got to do this, and then you're not even going to go to you're not going to use that degree for the purposes of getting a corporate job. You're just going to start a business, but you may say, hey, I want to take some courses to teach me this, this, and this. Well, you don't necessarily have to go to college for that. So that's where you don't want to get into that trap. Not having a degree does not make you a failure. But just because you have a bunch of money doesn't make you successful, because there are people on the other side that say, oh, look, I'm a multimillionaire. I've got all this money, but they lack other skill sets, and they lack in relationships. They lack in love. They lack in other things. So money doesn't make you successful necessarily. But again, it depends on the person. Some people, they look at success as, I got a bunch of money. I got a bunch of jewelry. And for them, that's success. So again, that's their thing. But don't fall into the trap that the only way that you can be successful is education. And you go and you spend a bunch of money to go to a top school that you can't afford to pay for, and you have loans that you're going to have to take out, and then you're going to be in debt when you get out of school just to work a job that you really didn't want to necessarily work, because your mindset wanted to be towards something else. But you got a degree because that's what everybody else was doing. That's what your other family members did, and they live comfortable lives. But that doesn't mean that it's necessarily, the path that you have to take. So don't fall into that trap. One of the other ones that they talked about was the quick fix. And it's called the quick fix trap. And it's always trying to find a quick fix to a situation. And that is one of the that's a trap that a lot of people fall into. Whether it's, relationships, whether it's, your job, whether it's, money, whatever it is, you try to find the easy way out of it. And you're going to find out that you're going to put more effort. You're going to put more or the same effort into trying to find a quick fix to get you out of the situation versus taking the road that you should take and learn and go through the process, so that way you won't fall into that mistake of trying to find a quick fix to a problem or a challenge in your life. You know, a lot of people, they want to get out of debt quick. So they think of a quick fix. Well, you know, a quick fix is, I'm going to go get this payday loan. You know, you think about it, a payday loan, and people say, I can get, you know, they tell you, we can give you money right now up to X amount of money. And, you know, you'll do this and do that. The next thing you know, you've got all these crazy rates that you have to pay. And, you know, they get a percentage of your check, and you find yourself always going to that place because you want to get that quick fix. You know, this isn't about drugs, but it's a quick fix to get that problem resolved as quickly as possible, instead of just saying, let's figure out better ways to do it. You know, that's where you find mentors or people that can help you get through those processes, because the quick fix mindset is not going to get you to where you need to be. And quick fixes are never meant to last. It's like putting a Band-Aid over, you know, a gaping wound. You may slow down some of it, but if you don't go get the root of the problem dealt with, that thing is going to get infected, and, you know, the rest, it's not going to be good. So you really have to think about, is the quick fix worth it? Is it going to truly get me to the place where not only am I getting the problem resolved, but am I learning so that I don't run into that problem again? And, you know, my wife and I explain it to the kids. You know, sometimes you've got to go through it. You've got to go through the challenge. You've got to meet the challenge head on, because that helps you grow. That helps you mature. You can't avoid those things. So the quick fix solution, just, you know, it's a trap. You know, I say not solution, but it's basically a trap. So try to avoid that as best as possible, because it will put you in a bad situation, because it never holds. It never lasts. And it's not meant to last, because it's a quick fix. All right. Another thing they talked about was this mindset, or this trap of always being in a hurry. And it's a trap, because your thought process or your actions of, I'm always in a rush, or always busy is being mistaken, where everything is urgency, but you're lacking productivity in your life. So it's kind of this mindset of urgency versus productivity. I'm always in a hurry. I'm always busy. You know, people will say, oh, so-and-so is always busy, they must be doing well. But you're not producing anything. How many businesses do people have? You know, I've seen people that they got 30 businesses, or, you know, they're trying to launch all this stuff, but nothing has really been successful. My wife and I, we said the same thing with some of the stuff we do. Like, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to do all these things, but I'm not gonna say we never, but if you don't focus on getting the first one, take one and get that going, then build from there. But trying to just hurry up and get something out there, because I'm afraid if I don't get it done, then if I don't stay urgent, stay on the go and make sure it happens, then, you know, I got to get all these things going, because, you know, you fall into, you know, this is the being in the hurry trap, but then you start looking at the scarcity trap, or limited time, or thinking, you know, and then you realize, I don't have all the time I thought I did. And if I don't get this business out there, somebody else is going to get it out there. You're just going back and forth, you know, trying to get things done. Everybody's like, oh, they're so busy, always busy, you know, always busy doing stuff. You're always, you know, and I hear people say that about me, like, well, we know y'all stay busy with this and that. And some of the stuff is just, we got kids, we got, you know, things that we try to do. It's not that we're in a place of urgency, because, you know, a lot of times we want to make sure we're being productive. So the trap of being in a hurry is, make sure that you are being productive. Make sure that you have something to show that's tangible for the reasons why you're busy. Don't just be busy and always in a hurry, but you're going nowhere. And I see that so many times, even in how we live, daily. When my wife and I went on our trip, at the airport. And I say this all the time. You're sitting on the airplane. The door isn't open. There are folks that are in the back of the plane. And they are standing up, grabbing their stuff, and trying to push ahead. Now, I get it if there are people who have a connecting flight that they're trying to run off the plane to get to it, or because their time is cut short. But a lot of these folks are just in a hurry to go nowhere. Like, you're standing up and doing all this stuff. They haven't even opened the door yet. You haven't been cleared to open the door. We're sitting out on the runway, waiting to get to the gate, and then they're standing up, like, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do? You can't go anywhere. The door isn't even open to the plane, but you're always in a hurry, always trying to go, always doing something. Being a busybody does not translate into productivity. Have something to show for the time that you're putting into it, for the time that you put into stuff. If you're going to always be on the go and always be in a hurry, make sure that you're being productive in that time when you're doing these things. Otherwise, you're never going to get something done. You're always going to be behind the 8 ball, or you're always going to, fall behind and fail at delivering things that you're supposed to deliver. I mean, we had that conversation with somebody at my job. Person is always finding different things to do. But when we give them certain projects and say we need this project done, it's always a delay because they were working on all this other stuff. And everybody talks about, this person's always so busy. So we said, look, we're going to prioritize the work that you do. We're going to structure it for you so that way you can work within that. And they struggle with that because they just want to be busy. Now, they like to help people, but we're like, here, we want you to stay focused because we need your expertise to get these things knocked out. But they're always in a hurry, always trying to get to that next thing, always trying to stay busy, and it's like a laser pointer with a cat. They see that, got to go to this. You move the laser pointer, they're jumping over there. I'm like, you got to stay focused. Because you've touched a lot of things in terms of what we needed you to do, but nothing is ready to deliver. And that's a problem. So if I'm as a manager, if I'm trying to, if I have to sit here and rate your job performance in terms of delivery, it wouldn't be great because you really haven't delivered much. You've done a lot of different things, but there's nothing that's been finalized, and that's not good. So, and that's how a lot of us are with our life. We're always on the go, always doing something, but we have nothing really tangible to show. So that's something that we definitely want to and make sure that we're not getting in that trap of just always in a hurry. Because that can be a very much so a false that can be a false thing for us in life. Pride. There's always that. And people know the pride trap. And you say, well, what is the pride trap? What does the pride trap mean? The pride trap is that we do things not for ourselves, not because it's because we desire to do it, but because we see other people do it, and we're too proud to say that we're too proud to say that we can't, that we can't do this, or we choose not to. Not that we can't, but we choose not to do this. We want to show people that we are successful. We want to show people that we've got money. We want to show people that we can do all these things, and that pride will get in the way, and you fall into that trap of, well, so-and-so has this kind of designer bag, so I got to make sure you have this kind of designer bag. So-and-so has this type of car, so I have to go buy that type of car because I want to show people that I'm this, I'm that. And when you have that mindset, you're going to fall into a place of, at keeping up. It's a trap of trying to keep up with the Joneses. But you may not know that the Joneses are over there swimming in debt because they're running up credit card bills to look the lifestyle that look like the lifestyle that they desire to have, but they're not in any place to do that. Meanwhile, on the other hand, you're working your butt off. You and your family are trying to make sure that you don't have debt. You're working and doing the things that you need to do in this season to ensure that if you desire to go purchase a designer, some designer article of clothing or, shoes or something like that, you can go do it if you desire to do it. And you don't have to think about it. You can just go out there and do it. That's the place where we want to be. Not that, okay, well, I'm going to go and sweat and go buy, I'm going to be stressed out going to buy, those expensive shoes because so-and-so has them. So I feel like, well, they're no better than me. I can go get those kind of shoes and I can go buy that kind of stuff. And then you're going to find yourself in that position where you're doing things and it's a trap. You're doing things to impress people who, you assume that they're doing it because some people may be doing it. Some people may be able to do it without having to worry about debt. They're not in any kind of debt. They just have the money to do it. But you have to know the place that, you're in. You can't, hear people say all the time, you can't count another man's, you can't know it or count what's in another man's wallet. You can't. And most of the time they're not going to tell you. But people just, that pride gets in the way, or, the pride to be honest and just, say, hey, we're working on something. I may not be able to go on this trip because, we're trying to save up money to buy our next house, or we're trying to save up money to buy a rental place, or we're trying to save up money to get this business off the ground. And we're close. I was talking to a friend, a good friend of mine, and he was like, I had to make some changes. I had to sacrifice. He's like, I had money. I could have went to go buy a new place for me and my kids. But he said, you know what? I knew that where I was at the time was going to afford me the opportunity to save up money so that I can get my business off the ground. And so he made a sacrifice. For over a year, I'm going to sacrifice this because I know where I'm trying to go. But his pride, if pride would have kicked in, he would be like, nah, I can't have people, I'm talking about I'm a successful businessman, this, that, and the other. I got to look the part. No, that's going to get you in trouble. So that pride thing you got to watch out for. We all do. I say y'all, we all do we have to do that. Same thing. It kind of goes with the lifestyle trap. And you talk about inflation and lifestyle trap, as and what it means is it's really the lifestyle inflation trap. And what that means is when you come into some more money, your income increases, whether it's a job, business, or just you increase your money. And so you immediately increase your lifestyle. That's the trap. And my wife and I, we talked about this, and I think we might have talked about it on the podcast one time. But there was a point in time where every time one of us got a new job, we felt like we had to go get it. And it's mostly me, but we felt like, oh, we got to go get a new car, or, we got to go buy this expensive thing, because we're making more money now. So we got a little bit more, we can be a little bit more loose with our budget, instead of saying, now we can accelerate the process. Now, that only happened at the very beginning of our relationship. We have obviously gotten a lot better, but it took some time. It took time for me to understand that, and even for both of us, her to say, no, this is what we need to maintain where we're at. We don't need to go out there and try to spend a bunch of money just because because we're making more money, because that's going to be a waste of time. When we're trying to pay off things, we're trying to, budget to save up to go on these vacations we like to go on, or if we want to buy another car or pay off our current car, eliminating debt. You can do that sometimes without even having to take on another job. And this is for those that are, have jobs. Like, eliminating debt, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to work 2 or 3 more jobs. You can start with the job you have now and figure out are there things that I can cut out of my weekly, monthly expenses that I can put toward paying off a bill? This whole snowball effect. But with that, it's you've got to have that mindset that because my lifestyle has improved, because of that, I got to go spend more. I got to go do this. I got to treat myself because I deserve it. Okay. But 28 days later, when that billing cycle hits, if you charged it or if you signed something, car note, and you got a 5 to now 8 years, I think now they're getting to 10 years for a car loan. Now you're locked into this thing and because you thought I'm making more money. Like I desire so much to get a Tesla, and I've made that known. Now, can my wife and I afford for me to go get a Tesla? We can afford it. But the question is it a priority? Is it something that we need to do? Because just because we may have had increases in our lifestyle in terms of, monetary things that have increased, doesn't mean that we have to take on going to get that car right now. Now, I'm claiming it and I'm going to get it, but it's going to be for the right circumstances, under the right reason, and when it's released, when God releases me to go get that. Not because I'm being an impulsive buyer or being emotional about it because I deserve to have this. I work hard. No, that's not why I'm going to get it, because then I'll feel a certain kind of way once I get it. And I know that if I find out it's something I really didn't need to do at that time. So I'm going to keep driving my 2015 Toyota Avalon, and my wife's got her 2018 Highlander that she likes to drive, and we both got cars that we desire to get, and we're going to get them. But for now, we're going to keep it moving to what we have. So don't get into that lifestyle inflation trap. If you got a plan, if you're working through a process to pay off debt, to eliminate debt, stay with it. Keep doing that, because that's how you get ahead. And again, you look at it for a season. It's for a season. It's not permanent. But if you do it now, especially for those folks that are younger, if you start now with that mentality, when you get to be, even my age of 40 something, you'll see like I'm in a much better place. And then we're trying to teach our kids that whole thing. Like it may be somewhat of delayed gratification, but it's worth it. And it doesn't have to be that long, but just got to get your mind conditioned for it. We'll do a couple more things. And I think this one is pretty good. It's called the Savior and Expectation Trap. So when you talk about the Savior trap, from the Savior position, it's kind of two different viewpoints of it. But from the Savior trap portion of it, you're in your life, you're always doing things, or you're always waiting to do things because there's expectation that someone's going to come in and do it for you. Somebody's going to come in and save the day. You're waiting for people. I remember in church, Pastor mentioned, Apostle already mentioned about, people who go out to dinner and they always expect him to pick up the check. Because they feel like, well, he may have more than them, financially, and, or they just assume like, oh, Apostle invited me out to dinner, I'm going to pay. It's that mindset that, and sometimes people say what etiquette is, if somebody invites you out to dinner, they may, some people have that mindset that you're supposed to pay. If you invite me to dinner, you're going to pay. And that's okay, the first time, but if it's a mutual decision, hey, let's go out to eat, you can't always assume that person is going to be there. So that Savior, and the concept around it, may be pretty trivial, but it's the thought that somebody's always going to have to be there to take care of you, to do this for you. You can't do it for yourself. You can't be the person who treats the person out, treat the person to dinner or lunch or whatever it is. Pick up the tab, but it's just that mindset of you got to wait for somebody else to do for you, to come save you from a situation. And it's funny because, I've listened to this podcast quite a few times on this topic, And, just recently had a conversation with one of our kids, with a couple of our kids, and we tell them this a lot, but, we tell them that our goal is to put you in a position where, you don't necessarily need us, and I know our kids will always need us in some way, just as because we're parents, but we want you to be independent, and if you do need us, obviously we'll be there to help, but we don't want it to be where you're always dependent on us to be able to do things. So we teach them about putting yourself in a position where you can be independent, where you can take care of yourself, and you should want to be in that position. And we constantly do that. So you don't need a savior to always pull you out of situations, and they're not always bad situations, but again, it's that mindset. And the other part of the savior and an expectation trap is the expectation part of it. And it's kind of like, I want to mention something else about the savior before I go to expectation, but for the savior part, from you or me trying to always save somebody, we're trying to change them. And we get into a trap where, and it's a trap because it can ruin relationships. You come across people who, you want them to be this person, you want them to be that person, and it's just not them. It's not on them. They're not that kind of person. And you think it's your job because you may have, experienced some level of success, and you want that person to have that same level. So you try to basically change them into something where they change them into something where they may not be that kind of person. It's not our job to change people and have the expectation that they're going to receive or they're going to change based off of what we feel. That's not our job. That's not your job to change somebody. And so when you think about the concept of marriage, and when you talk about savior and expectations, a lot of people try to change somebody in a relationship, and then they think that person is going to be, they have an expectation of this person to be different than what they are. And so they marry them off of that potential, off of that expectation. So, to all my married people or just people that have been in long-term relationships or whatever, think about that. The person that you are with before you got married, would you have married them if they never would have changed from who they are? Now, again, you can't change them. So if they stayed the same way, obviously people grow and mature, but if they pretty much stayed the same way, those characteristics or those things that you just, may not necessarily agree with, could you stay with them? 10 years out, could you still be with them? Because if you can't, then you should think about that before you get married to them, because everybody does not necessarily change the way you want them to. Now, again, through communication, everything else, that there's always an opportunity through prayer. Obviously, there's always opportunities for people to change, but more so you changing yourself, because I can't, like my wife and I, we can't change each other necessarily. We have to want to change ourselves, and the change in ourselves, if you truly love your spouse, you want to be the best person, the best, spouse for them by being your best person. And, through time, that should get reciprocated, because she's going to, for my situation, if I'm being the best husband I can be and giving my all and listening to her and hearing, the things that she desires from me, again, my wife can't necessarily just go and push a button and change me, but she can also tell me what she desires, what she desires for me to do or to be. And then it's up to me to figure out if I want to make those changes. But I've got to be on board with it. And that's a difference that a lot of people don't think about. So, again, it's something that you need to think about, but don't get caught in that trap of, I got to change people, or I've got this expectation, because you're going to be disappointed.
And people are going to be disappointed in you because some people may look at you and want you to be a certain way. And you're like, no, I'm not doing that. That's not who I am. You know, so those are things that you definitely want to look at. I think I'm gonna do one more. And this one was kind of interesting, but it's called like the sunken. Well, if you think about the movie, I can't think of the name of it now, but it's a Jordan Peele movie, and I forgot the name of it, but you know, the sunken place. Well, this is called the sunken cost trap, or just, you know, just the sunk trap. But think about a situation or people who have been in the same job for, you know, years. I can think of a lot of people, and they know that it's time for them to leave. They know they know that the job isn't the place to be, but they're afraid to leave because of the unknown. So they're in this sunken place where they're just like, I got to stay here because I know what to expect, even though this place is draining me for everything that I have. You know, it's not killing you, but it's draining you, and it's taxing to you. And you know that it's time for you to go. And you probably known that for a while. And, you know, if you've been praying, God probably told you to leave. I had that situation before, you know, but, you know, my own fear kept me in a place longer than I needed to. But think about that, you know, being in a place where I'm in this job for, you know, all these years, and, you know, I know that I need to leave, and there's other things that I can do out there, but I'm afraid because I don't think I'm good enough. And so I'm stuck here. I'm stuck in this job, and I'm miserable. I'm unhappy, but I'm here because it's paying my bills. And that's one of the things where it's almost like the job has become your source. I can't leave it. I'm too afraid. It's the same thing with, there's relationships that we've been in, marriages, or, you know, just long-term relationships, or just toxic relationships with people that, you know, we're comfortable in that toxicity, that we're going to just stay here. I'm going to stay in this marriage because, yeah, we got X number of kids, and, you know, the cost of living is crazy, but you're not happy. And 5 years turns to 10 years, 10 years turns to 20 years. And next thing you know, you've spent a good portion of your life in a situation that you didn't necessarily need to be in. It's a sunken place. And we have to learn that we can't fear change. Change is inevitable. Change is the only way that you're going to grow. Getting out of that bird's nest, flying. It's the only way you're going to do it. It's uncomfortable. It's hard. I know. We all know it's hard. But avoiding it will stunt our growth. And that's the sunken place. I mean, you're really just there, you know, witnessing all this stuff, and everything's happening around you. And, you know, you know that you need to go, but you're afraid of the unknown. That fear of the unknown is that sunken place. That is that sunken trap. And it's like, you got to get out of there. We have to get out of there. We can't stay in that place. So I just want everybody to understand that there are plenty of traps in life. There are plenty of things that life would throw at you, the enemy would throw at you, that we will do to ourselves and be our own enemies and our own enemy. And we will put ourselves in and get caught up in these traps that sometimes they're hard to get out of. And then we'll be too prideful to ask for help. You know, again, it goes back to pride. You know, we don't want to ask for help because, you know, it'll make us look weaker. It'll make us look like we're incompetent. It'll make us look like, oh, you know, I'm asking somebody to help me out, or to show me this, like, oh, I don't know how to do this. I'm ignorant to that. You know, and that pride thing will get you in trouble. Think about this. There are millionaires out there that have people coach them. And you think to yourself, well, this person has all this money. Why do they have people coach them? Because that person, that coach, helps them to stay focused. It keeps them on that path of success. It keeps them, on that path of their, staying with their vision and not letting things distract them. That's why they have them. And the person, the coach may not make as much money as that person, but they're doing what they love to do and they're successful in their own right. And it's helping that person who is the billionaire, millionaire make, keep their life together and bring meaning to the process, bring meaning to them and keep them engaged so that they can continue to build the empire that they're trying to build or that they have already built. You don't just get to a place and make $1 million or billions of dollars and just say, okay, I'm just going to stop. My life ends here. No, there's always something different. There's always a way to ensure that there is meaning for all that you have accomplished. I read somewhere where, he may not be the best example, but I read somewhere where Bill Gates has basically said he's at a point right now where, he doesn't care about being on the richest person's list. He's giving away money, or not giving away, but he's, finding better uses for his money because he knows he has more money than he would ever need in 100 lifetimes. And him and his wife, they are very much so, they have they're philanthropists. They're out there doing different things, and it's cool. Sometimes you may not agree with them, but they've made a decision that they want to use their money for other things. And there's other people like that because you can't take it with you. So, just don't fall in that. That's going back to the trap thing is, if you need help, get it. If you're in a situation where you see that, you want to grow, you find people with the same mindset, with the same morals and values that you have, but maybe doing things at a much higher place. You want to find those people and link up to them and they and show them, because, statistics say, if you're around, let's say you're in a group of 5, it's 5 of you guys or 6 of you, it's 5 millionaires, you're on your way to being the 6 because they're going to influence you that way. If you're truly in a relationship with that person or those folks, if you're around people who, I'm not going to call them losers, but because that's what they called it. But if you're around people who are not, they have a poverty mindset, they have they have that scarcity thinking, and, some people say that stinking thinking, you would be the 6th person with that. And you may not see it all the time, but you pick up that stuff. And it's easy. You can pick it up from family members that you're around all the time, parents. Sometimes you pick up that stuff unless you purposely put yourself in a position where you don't. And you're like, I'm fighting against this. I bind this, and I rebuke it because that's not who I want to be. I want to do more. I want to experience more. And that's how it should be. So again, I thank everybody for listening. I hope that you got something from this. As always, we're all about expanding and building kingdom citizens that are prospering in every way of their lives, not just financially, but mentally, spiritually, and physically, along with financially. So as a kingdom heir, you were created to flow in everything that you were purposed and planned for in your life. So go out there, be great, and flow. Love you guys. I'll check you out next time.